Somewhere, in a secure facility, there is a small metal USB drive. On it are the keys to a fortune in Bitcoin, worth, depending on the day, somewhere north of $200 million. And the drive is built to destroy that fortune. It is an IronKey, once the most secure consumer drive on Earth, trusted by governments and the military. And it follows one rule. Guess the password wrong 10 times and it locks itself forever. Not for an hour, not until you reset it, forever. The data inside is scrambled beyond any recovery by design. The man who owns it has guessed wrong 8 times. He has 2 guesses left, and he has decided not to use them. This isn't a drive lost in a landfill. He knows exactly where it is. He could plug it in tonight. The lock isn't a place he can't reach. It's a number, counting down, that can never go back up. This is the story of a man who was paid a fortune for a favor, lost the password, and then made the strangest decision in the history of lost money, and the people who showed up offering to cut the drive open. Stefan Thomas is a programmer, German-born, sharp, early to almost everything. He would go on to become the chief technology officer of Ripple, one of the biggest companies in crypto, and later the founder of his own startup. By any measure, a successful man. But this story starts in 2011, before any of that, with a small act of generosity. Back then, almost nobody understood Bitcoin, so Thomas made something to help. A short animated video called "What is Bitcoin?" One of the first clear, friendly explanations of the technology. He put it online for free, and early Bitcoin enthusiasts saw it, loved it, and decided to say thank you, the way that community said thank you in those days. He paid him, in Bitcoin, 7,002 coins. At the time, that was worth maybe a few $1,000s. A nice tip for a side project. A curiosity, really, in a currency most people thought was a toy. Thomas did the responsible thing. He took the keys to those coins and he locked them up properly. Not on a sticky note, not in an email. He put them behind a password, and he stored that password on the safest device he knew, the IronKey. And he wrote the password down on a piece of paper. This is the detail the whole story turns on, because at some point that piece of paper was lost. And the IronKey, the device he chose precisely because it was so hard to break into, was now doing its job perfectly. It was keeping everyone out, including him. 10 chances to remember, 10 wrong guesses, and it's gone. Security that good cuts both ways. For a while, it didn't matter much. The coins were worth a little, then a bit more. Easy to put off, easy to forget. Then Bitcoin started to climb, and the forgotten drive in the drawer quietly became one of the most valuable objects he would ever own. By 2021, those 7,000 coins were worth more than $200 million. Since then, at the market's highs, far more than that. And that is when the real torture began, because now every guess mattered. Think about what that machine does to you. Most passwords you can try and try. Get it wrong, try again, no harm done. Not this one. Here, a wrong guess isn't free. It costs you. It moves the counter down by 1, permanently, and brings the drive one step closer to erasing a fortune. So Thomas would have an idea, an old favorite password, a pattern he used to use, some variation he was sure he'd tried. And then he'd have to decide whether that hunch was worth spending one of his last chances on. He tried, and one by one, the guesses ran out. 8 of them, gone. 2 left. He described it later to the New York Times. I would just lay in bed and think about it. Then I would go to the computer with some new strategy, and it wouldn't work, and I would be desperate again. Lie awake, invent a new theory, walk to the computer, watch it fail, be desperate again, for years. And then Stefan Thomas did something almost no one in his position does. He stopped. He looked at the 2 guesses he had left, and the fortune behind them, and he decided that his own mind was worth more than the gamble. I got to a point where I said to myself, let it be in the past, just for your own mental health. He put the IronKey away, by his account, into a secure facility, and he walked off. Not because he gave up hope, but because he decided he would rather wait, maybe forever, than burn his last 2 shots and lose it all in a single bad guess. It is the exact opposite of the man we covered last time, clawing at a landfill for a decade. Stefan Thomas put the key in a drawer, closed it, and chose his sanity over the money. For now. In January 2021, the New York Times told this story to the world. And the world responded the way it always does. The offers poured in. Psychics, hypnotists, strangers certain they could guess it. People who wanted to pray over the drive. Thomas, sensibly, ignored almost all of them. But one offer was different. It didn't come from someone who wanted to guess the password. It came from people who said they could make the guessing irrelevant. A company called Unciphered, led by a hardware security expert named Eric Michaud. They don't break passwords, they break devices. And to prove it, they did something remarkable. They took another IronKey, the same model, and they took it apart down to the silicon. They stripped the tamper-proof shielding with acid. They imaged the bare chip under a microscope. They bypassed the 10-attempt limit entirely. And then they brute forced the password offline with no risk of erasing it. That's the part that changes everything. They weren't going to sit at the drive and type guesses and pray. They were going to physically defeat the chip, lift the lock that counts down to self-destruct, and then try every possible password offline, safely, where a wrong answer cost nothing. The self-destruct everyone feared, the thing that froze Stefan Thomas in place for years. Unciphered was saying, in effect, that door has a back, and we know where it is. In October 2023, they made it public. An open letter to Stefan Thomas, offering, in front of the whole world, to unlock the drive. By then, the coins were worth around $240 million. And Stefan Thomas said no. He explained it to Wired. For about a year, he told them, he'd already been quietly working with 2 other recovery teams. He'd promised them a share if they succeeded. He'd given his word. I'm no longer free to negotiate with someone new, he said, though he left the door open a crack, suggesting his existing teams might one day bring Unciphered in. So sit with that. A credible firm with a demonstrated method publicly offered to open the safest USB drive on Earth and hand a man $250 million. And he turned them down. Over a handshake, a prior promise, the caution of a man who has been burned by hope too many times to bet it all on a stranger. Loyalty? Fear? The wisdom of refusing a one-shot gamble dressed up as a sure thing. You can decide that one yourselves. Step back from all of it, and you notice something this story has that almost no lost fortune story does. An ending that is a choice. The coins are intact. The drive is intact. A method to open it may genuinely exist, and it all stays shut, not because a court forbade it, not because it's buried under 1 million tons of garbage, but because the man it belongs to decided that for now, the peace of letting go was worth more than the risk of reaching. And it is a real risk. Even with the counter bypassed, brute forcing a password isn't guaranteed. The team's methods are unproven on his exact drive. Every road still ends at a word or a phrase that one human being has to hope a machine can find, because he never could. So it sits there. On the blockchain, the 7,000 coins are permanent, public, and perfectly intact. A balance anyone on Earth can look up, climbing with the market year after year. And the one person who can claim them has stopped reaching. 2 guesses. That's all that stands between Stefan Thomas and the fortune. 2 tries he is too wise or too tired or too careful to spend. The 7,002 Bitcoin have never moved. He still has 2 guesses left. If it were your drive, 2 guesses left, would you risk one tonight? Or let the experts cut it open and take their cut? Tell me below. And if you hold any crypto at all, ask yourself where your password actually lives. If the answer is one piece of paper or only in my head, you already know how this story ends. The hardware wallet link is in the description. Next week, a woman who raised billions selling a coin that did not exist and then vanished off the face of the earth. The Crypto Queen. Subscribe so you don't miss it.